Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to today's yoga class. So for this yoga class, it's going to be a gentle practice all on the floor, either lying or kneeling. And the focus is going to be on spacious spine. So the idea is we're going to look at moving the spine in all the directions that it goes in, use our breath and our body to feel a sense of spaciousness in our spine. You will need one prop for today. You do have options. So I'm going to show most of the poses with a blanket. I have my blanket here. We'll be rolling that, moving it around. You can also use a yoga block, and I'll explain how to use that. And if you don't have any yoga props and just want to use a foam roller, that will work too. So we'll start this practice lying down on our backs. We just want to feel a sense of our spines with our natural spinal curves first. Come all the way down to lying on your back, legs stretch out long, arms by your sides. Allow yourself to start to feel comfortable. I might look toward you. You can just let your head look toward the ceiling. You can close your eyes if you desire. Start to draw your attention in toward your breath. Feeling your breath wherever you naturally feel your breath in your body. And that might be in the area of your nostrils and your mouth, taking in the breath. You might feel the breath as it travels down through the area of your chest, your ribs, your diaphragm. And maybe lying in this position, you feel your breath in your back body too. A good percentage of our lungs are on our backs. So see if you can draw your attention there and notice as you breathe in, you might feel your body expanding toward the floor a little bit. And as you stay here, notice the curves in your spine. So even though we're in this position where we're stretched out long and we might call it a flat back, there are still natural curves in our spine. So the first is the cervical curve, and that's the curve behind your neck. Notice how that area gently curves away from the floor as you're lying. Then our mid-back, our thoracic spine, that part curves toward the floor. So that's where you can feel your breathing, your lungs gently pressing into the ground. As we move down our low back, our lumbar spine, there's a little bit of space there as well. It varies. I have a deeper lumbar curve, but you'll notice at least a little bit of space where you have that natural low back curve. And then finally, our sacral area, our tailbone, that also curves back toward the floor. So you might feel all the way at the bottom of your spine pressing gently into the floor. All right, take one or two more mindful breaths here and we'll move on. We're actually going to stay lying on the back, but here's where we need our props. So I'm going to roll up to get my blanket. Now, our first version of the prop is going to be vertical. If you're using your block, it would go vertically between, right along your spine. And you might want to have a second block or a blanket as a little pillow. If you're using the blanket like me, I like to have my blanket out in the long position, and I do a little bit of an accordion fold with it. So folding one way and then the other. So I get this long, narrow blanket thirds. I'm going to put that along my mat, and again, this will go vertically under my spine. If you have the foam roller, same thing, vertically under your spine with your head resting on the foam roller. So I'll take the blanket all the way down to my tailbone, or my sacral spine, lie back over it, and I like to take the top edge and tuck it under as a little pillow. And just an FYI, this is one of my favorite ways to do Shavasana or a rest position, to create some openness across the chest. It's a really mild back bend. So in here, we're focusing on the stretch in the upper back. So see if you can feel the upper back releasing as your shoulder blades come back and rest against the ground and your collarbones widen. So all those muscular actions might be happening here. And then send your breath consciously into those areas. Simply the idea of visualizing that we're breathing mainly into the upper chest, the upper back. And as we send the breath there, the idea that we allow those areas to start to soften, to start to release, to be supported by the floor underneath us. So we'll take 3 mindful breaths here, and your breath pace might be different than mine. Feel free to rest longer if that feels good for you. And I'm going to start to roll up to show you the next position of the blanket. You can wait lying down as we make this shift. So the next position is going to be across the shoulder blades in the mid-back area. So I'll keep my blanket in the same position. I'm just going to double it over. You might find that you don't need the doubling. So if you're using the block is going to go this time horizontally right down at the base of the shoulder blades. This is the medium, the toaster position. You might find that the block on the low position works better for you. And then same thing with the foam roller, right at the base of the shoulder blades. The foam roller might feel a little bit too harsh for this, especially if your foam roller is pretty stiff. So consider using a blanket or even a pillow can work. So here, the prop is right at the bottom of the shoulder blades, and you might have to adjust for comfort a little bit. Your arms will be above the prop. So we want to feel this action more in the mid-back. And you'll probably see that my rib cage is lifted toward the ceiling by the prop. So now we're shifting this stretch to the thoracic spine area. That's our target along the back, although it's really along the front, the rib cage area that's getting the stretch. Because this is a mild back bend, and in back bends, we're stretching the front body. You can do whatever you want with your arms. I have mine stretched out to a T. Sometimes I really like having them in this cactus shape. That can feel good. They can be up overhead too. So every practice can be personalized to you. And you might want to check out my VIP yoga series, that's variations on individualized practice, where I show specific ways to personalize the poses. So again, let's take about 3 more mindful breaths here. All right, I'm going to roll over and come up. You can stay there for another moment as I show you the last position. So you might have figured that now we have to target the low back. So for the low back, the prop is going to go under our sacral area, that tailbone area. It's below the waistband. When the prop is right in the waist, that can feel uncomfortable. So usually if the prop needs to be adjusted, it needs to slide further down toward your feet. So again, you can use the block. If you're using the block, I recommend having it in the low position. I'm just going to turn around so you can see for a moment. Right about there. You'll have to adjust to you. I'm going to still use the blanket. I will lie down and slide that underneath. I'll use this blanket on the doubled up position again. I'm going to press my feet lightly into the floor and then slide the blanket right underneath. And take a moment to adjust. So when you find the right position, this can feel so wonderfully supporting. I'm going to even slide mine a little more down to my feet. When you get into position, you'll have a little bit of muscular action from your feet resting on the ground and holding yourself up. Although you can allow your knees to come together if that feels better and just kind of knock the knees a little bit, release that way. See if you can really allow your body to melt into this prop. Not using any more effort than what you need to. Feeling is almost as if the flesh around your pelvis, your hips, spills over the block or the blanket. And allowing your low back to sink more toward the floor. It will retain its little curve, but allowing that sense of releasing, softening, sinking. And then we'll do a few more mindful breaths here. So when you're ready to come up, push into your feet to slide your prop out. And you might want to stretch out for a moment. When we do these stretches on the back, it can feel pretty intense. So give yourself a few moments if needed to readjust. When you're ready, slide over to one side, help yourself up. You can slide your prop out of the way. I don't think we're going to use it again, but who knows, we might. And we'll come up to hands and knees. So from hands and knees, you want to have your hands fingers spread wide to support you and under your shoulders or a little ahead of your shoulders. So I'm going to turn around. So this is our hands and knees or our tabletop position. In tabletop, we again talk about the back being flat, but there's still the natural curves in the spine. And you'll see I have a little bit more of a dip in my low back. I just have more of a lumbar curve. We'll move into cat-cow while I'll deepen that lumbar curve, allow my belly to sink more to the ground, my heart to come toward the ground. You can look forward a little bit. This is my cow pose. And then on an exhale, I curve chin to chest, tailbone pointing to the floor, arching the back into like an angry Halloween cat. And go through this a few times at your own pace, exploring where you can feel the breath in your body. So as long as you are breathing with this movement, you're doing it the right way. As long as you can feel the movement in your body, that's a functional yoga practice. A functional yoga practice is how we feel the yoga, how we feel the poses in our bodies. And maybe a few more times. It doesn't have to look exactly one way. You can shimmy around a little bit. When you're ready, come back to your center, and we'll do a few twists. So we've moved our body into a forward and back bend. We'll do a couple little twists. I'll take my hand closest to you, place it near my ear, start to open up toward you, twisting along the spine, and then exhaling, coming underneath. So do about 3 or 4 or 5 like this. And then switch to the other side. And likely most of that movement is going to come from around the rib cage. In your twist, most of the movement comes from our cervical spine. So one last movement in this position, you can draw your knees a little closer together if that feels good. Slide your feet out to one side. I'm going to the side near you. And then look over your head look over your shoulder toward your feet. So you're getting a little side bend. This is a lateral stretch. And then slide your feet the other way. Look the other way. Come back to the first side. This time you might even walk your hands a little bit more in that direction. So we're getting a little bit of compression on the side that we're bending toward, and that's fine as long as it's not painful. It's the opposite side where you're looking to feel the stretch. And you can adjust that by maybe walking the one hand a little further away, looking further, moving your hands further. Doesn't matter where you are, what it matters is what it feels, where you need to go to feel the stretch in your body. All right, one more time to the other side, toes to the other side, hands walk out. Adjust your hands to find the stretch. And back to your center. All right, we're going to come all the way around and come up into a standing knee position. So we'll do some of those same movements in terms of forward bending, back bending, lateral stretching, twisting from standing knees. So take one leg out to the side, and you may have to adjust your foot to be a little bit ahead of your hips to be more comfortable right here in your hip, your pelvic joint. Toes can point toward me, or they can point out with your leg. So find the place where that feels most comfortable for you. Maybe adjust clothing if you need to. And then sweep the arms up, grow tall. Exhale, same hand as leg comes down the leg, reaching over in that direction. And you'll notice we're again getting a lateral stretch. And if you need to adjust where this is in your body, go right ahead. And then from here, we can take a little bit of a cat-cow movement in this kneeling position. So for our cat, we sort of round forward, getting that rounding shape in our back. And for the cow, you reach up and out, expanding across the chest, widening the collarbones. 2 more times. Arching the back, any amount that works for you. Drawing your shoulder blades back, expanding across the collarbones. And once more. I felt a nice little shoulder stretch there too. Coming back up, walk your hands down. And now we'll take that into a little in and out twist movement. My toes naturally just turned closer to this way. This time we'll lift the top arm and open up, and then float it underneath the body in a twist. And 2 more times in the twist. Lift and open, float underneath. And you don't have to go to a certain point. I'm only lifting my arm about a little more than half. Maybe you go further than I do. That's just where it feels comfortable for me. And then hands down, walk your hands in, walk that leg in, and we'll move to the second side. So stretch the leg out. Remember that this side could feel a little differently. You might have to position the leg in a different place to feel comfortable. Breathe in and reach up. So think about length in the spine. Think about stretching up long to get that spacious spine before we take any other movement into it. And then on an exhale, slide your hand down the leg, reach up and over. Now this arm does not have to be up in the air. It could be behind your ear. It could be kind of cupping your head this way. It can stay here if for whatever reason your shoulder doesn't feel comfortable and it's better for you to stay here. So even with the arm here, I'm getting the same kind of side stretch that I'm looking for, that lateral stretch. So I'll do my cat-cow with the arm low this time. So reaching into a rounded cat shape, exhaling, reaching away. 2 more times. So this is rounding or arching. It depends on how you look at it, into a cat shape. Opening up, away, expansion across the chest. And 1 more time. A rounding of the back. And then more of a hammock shape with the back, even though we're upright. Hands come down to the mat, so walk your hands down your body. Adjust your leg if needed, and we'll take the twisting shape. So this one hand is going to be maybe a little more to the middle to support you. You can even be in cupped fingers or have a block under this hand. I'll show that. Inhale, open up. Exhale, slide your hand underneath. This actually feels nice with the block because it gives me a little bit more room to move in. Sometimes you'll find that props really actually help you get more stretch and go deeper into your poses, if that's what you're needing on any particular day. All right, and hands down. Walk your leg in, walk your hands in. We're going to turn back around to an all fours, and we'll do just a little bit of work in downward facing dog. So come around to all fours. To sit up for downward dog, I like to First, I like to tuck my shirt in so it doesn't get in the way. I'm going to move my hands, instead of being right under the shoulders, a little bit forward. That's going to give me more length to my dog. And then as I tuck my toes, instead of thinking about lifting up right away, I'm going to think about sliding back. So sliding back, keeping my hands planted, getting length in my torso, then starting to lift my hips up and back. And from here, I'll try to release my heart toward the ground while lifting up my armpits higher. Get a really nice stretch in my back. Breathe here. You can walk your dog if you'd like. And then we're going to take a step out so that we're stepped on the edges of the mat and also a little bit closer. So this is kind of a short dog. I'm going to reach underneath my body toward my opposite leg. You can slide your hand like this, or you might reach under. So this is a little dog twist. I can reach my calf or my thigh. You might be more like this, and that is fine. You can bend your knees here also. What we're going for is a little bit of a twist and a little bit of a balance. We're on 3 limbs right now. Exhale, come back. Anytime you need to take a little rest, go ahead and do that. And the other side. So coming to the short dog, again, your back might look a little bit different here. Reach underneath. Hand can stay on the ground. You can reach toward the opposite shin, thigh, wherever feels right, getting a little twist in your body. And bringing that arm back down, settling back down to the ground. All right, beautiful. We have just a few more poses. We're going to do a few more back bends. So we did back bending when we did our cat-cow. That's a forward fold and a back bend. Just a little bit more back bend work because it really helps us to expand across the front body, especially the upper front body, our chest and collarbones. That can get constricted with all the activities we do during the day, sort of hunched over like this. So we'll start with lying down on our bellies. Come all the way down to your belly. I'm just propping myself up in a Sphinx position so I can talk to you for a moment. You can be all the way lie face down, and you can make a little kind of pillow for your hands and put your forehead right into that pillow, or you might even use an actual small pillow. So stretching out long like this, I like to tuck one toe, push my heel back to get length in my leg, and then float that leg back down. Do the same with the other side. So this gives me a little more space in my low back. This helps me feel comfortable. Legs are at a distance apart that feels right for you. So sometimes you'll hear the cue of legs close together. That works for some people. For me, I like my feet a little bit more than hip width apart when I do my back bends. So we are going to do a gecko version of cobra. Our hands will be out to the side off the mat. Our elbows will be pointing up rather than back. And our fingers will be like spider fingers or cupcake hands, however you want to call it. Coming to face down. Fingers are about in line with your breastbone. Elbows up. Think about using your upper back, the muscles between your shoulder blades, as you start to push into the pads of your fingers. Engage in your upper back. Lifting up, taking your gaze maybe a little bit in front of your mat, so not way up and crunching the back of your neck, a little bit in front of your mat, and release. We'll do that a couple more times. Up, so your hands are not really doing a lot here. They can give you a little bit of stability, but we're really trying to get this lift as much as we can with those muscles in the upper back, waking them up, and release. One more time. Use those upper back muscles, wake them up, draw them together. Maybe you have a little bit more space in this last one, and then release. You can rest with your forehead down or to one side. Take a breath or two. And then we'll push back up. This time, we'll come up into a standing knees like we did for like we did for gate to do camel. So from a standing knee position, we are really going to target the upper back like we did before. That's the area in this camel variation that we're going to do. So take your hands, put them on your hips, and elbows back this time. And you can even point your fingertips down as if you're going to put them in your back pockets. And oh, look, I have pockets. So that's the idea. Hands as if you're slipping into your back pockets. I'll just use my actual pockets. Elbows back. The front part of your torso, your pelvis, so right where your torso meets your legs, right in that little crease, that part is pushing forward, but you also want to feel like length in that front body there. So this is a back bend. Remember, we're going for length in the front body, length and stretch. And then begin getting longer with your spine, so long that your chest, your collarbone naturally feels like it's looking up toward the ceiling and starting to curve in that upper back area, that same area we were just stretching on the floor. So instead of thinking about like, wow, I've got to come back there, think about you're going up toward the ceiling. A balloon is lifting you, lifting your chest, lifting you up. And maybe that motion of going up creates a little bit more of a curve in your upper back. And then exhale and release. Beautiful. So for rest, let's come down for a moment into child's pose. And child's pose is a little bit more of a rounding on the back of a forward fold. So that's a good place for us to end, is a little bit more of a chance to go internal. Spread your knees as wide as you like to create room for your body in child's pose. I like a lot of room here so that my body can comfortably move toward the floor. And since I still have this blanket around, I'm going to use it for a little bit of a supported child's. You don't have to. You can come right to the floor. I'm going to draw this between my body, allow my torso to come to rest. And if you have a pillow, a bolster, you can use that here. Sometimes I like to use it this way too, keep myself a little bit higher up. And that can feel really nice too. The idea is to find a position that feels comfortable, where you can take a few moments to rest. Release your back into this soft round shape. Focus on your mindful breathing, your breath, wherever you can feel it, and then also your attention to your breath in your back body. I'm going to come to sitting up. You can stay in your child's position. If your head is turned one way in child's pose, make sure to take a few moments with it turned the other way before you finish. And as you are ready to get up out of child's pose, you might stretch your arms, walking them to one front quarter of your mat and then the other. So getting one last little bit of a lateral stretch along your side body. Those are some of my favorite kind of ways to stretch the spine. So I hope today's practice helped you find some space in your spine, find some room to breathe. The more space we have in the spine and the torso area, the better our breathing is going to be. Please join me again for other practices. You'll see the link to them up here. Thanks so much for being here today. I hope you have a great rest of your day.